So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forward. So, this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Adam Hickey, who's Managing Director at Pinnacle Conservation. So, Adam, firstly, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Pinnacle Conservation, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Pleasure to be here. So we are Pinnacle Conservation. We're a heritage restoration building company based in York. We employ directly a range of traditional crafts from stonemasons, joiners, roofers, lime plasterers. We believe passionately in heritage skills training. So we have a wide range of apprentices that are coming through the ranks with support from competent people. So we generally look after old buildings, obviously, but we love what we do. So any kind of old buildings and bits we love to get stuck into.
Wonderful. And just for anyone watching, I mean, you've worked on some amazing projects. If I was obviously York Minster is obviously one I know you've worked on, but places like Beaucliffe. Or what are some of your sort of highlights for you?
Well, I have to confess, we've never done the glamorous stuff on York Minster. We've kind of done some sheds and, and other bits of the Minster, but
You didn't need to share
we've
that
done
bit
some
with us.
we've done some lovely work on Wentworth Woodhouse. We've done the South Pavilion there, Beaucliffe Hall, the Grand Assembly Rooms in York, the Grey Rooms in York. We've done some small works at St Michael of Belfry. Um, we've done Hexham Abbey. We've done the east front
Wow.
on the market face of Hexham Abbey, which is really good. That was a stone repair project. And we've done Boston Stump down in Boston.
Right.
We tend to get like an hour and a half from York.
Yeah.
So Hexham and Boston are the kind of extremes of that. But yeah.
Yes. Wonderful. Just really wonderful stuff. And as I say, we were talking about before, and you were talking about sort of traditional crafts. I'm total ignorance, but I always get this impression that some of these things are dying arts if we don't keep them alive.
I must admit, when I set the business up in 2019, and we first started, we thought the guys are great, but they're in their 50s, approaching 60. I kind of looked selfishly and thought, in 5 years' time, if we're not careful, there won't be a business to carry on.
Yeah.
There'll be no workforce.
Yes.
So straight away, we embarked on like an apprentice program,
Brilliant.
and we recognise that we think there's a 5-year training program to
Yeah.
kind of train a craft. So we thought we'd better get our skates on and get that rolling, which we did. Uh, that's you go to college, you learn your stonemasonry over 2 years. That's your college course done, but then that masonry still needs to be developed and honed over a
Yes.
number of years following.
Am- Amazing.
It's essential for us.
Yeah, it must be great. It must be great to know you're keeping something alive and bringing young people through because I'm sure it must be a very rewarding thing to do. I'm really terrible with my hands. I admire people that are good, but
Yeah.
great. Well, Adam, perhaps if we start, you sort of mentioned starting the business, but go a bit further back with your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one.
Uh, Good question. To be honest, I never really intended to set out into conservation, and it's something that I try and correct. We do a lot of school and college events, and I try and say to people that don't dismiss conservation and construction because you might think it's a lowly skilled, maybe not academically rigorous subject, but it's given me so many challenges and so many mental challenges. It's been incredible. But when I started off, when I was at school, I never thought about going into construction, particularly not conservation. I actually wanted to be in the army, believe it or
Right.
not. But I actually went into the army for a very brief period, but it didn't quite work for me. I realized I wasn't my kind of sense of freedom and maybe ambition took me away from that. So I was a bit lost really. I came out of the army. I didn't really know what to do,
Yeah.
and I fell into construction. It's a low barrier industry, so it's kind of
Yes.
quite easy to get into. And early on in my career, I got stuck into working in old buildings, and I just absolutely loved it. But it was never deliberate. It was just kind of something I fell into.
Yeah. And how did that? And so you're into that, and how did that? You know, there's still a big jump between working in construction in old buildings and founding your own business.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough when I first started, I was put through my degree course. I've done a 1 day a week bachelor's degree,
Yeah,
and then carried on doing my master's 1 day a week over another 3 years. So it was like 8 years of studying combined with kind of working in the field, which was incredible. It was a challenging but learning in every sphere possible. Um, and whilst working, I was kind of going through a progression of kind of supervisory capacity to management capacity and to multiple contracts capacity.
yeah,
And I kind of grew from there. And you probably can tell from my accent, I'm not from the north of England.
yeah.
I practiced originally in London in conservation, looking after stone buildings in London. So some amazing projects there. But I got to a bit of a point where I took a bit of a gap year and done some traveling. Went to Australia,
Brilliant.
and then in Australia I met my good lady, and she turns out she's from York.
Right.
So
Oh,
we
brilliant.
came back. We were distance dating for a bit, and then I took the plunge and moved north. Without boring you too much, I joined a company that had been going since 1747 in York.
Wow. Wow.
Amazing heritage company. Did similar things to what we did in London, but on a more prestigious background in the north of England.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to kind of use my experience I'd had to join those guys, but sadly they went into administration in 2016, I think.
Oh dear.
So I moved north to join them. It didn't quite work out after them going into administration, and then I bumbled about for a few years, not really kind of being settled. And I thought the only way of actually establishing what I would like out of the industry was to set my own business up,
Yes.
and that's how it kind of started, really.
Amazing. Amazing. What a great story. And sort of looking backwards from that point or to now, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome in growing your business to where it is now?
I think one of the biggest challenges, probably in my whole career, has been convincing people that I'm a safe pair of hands for them to deliver the project,
Right.
because you started off fairly young, and giving people the confidence that some of them my age can deliver a project
Right. Yeah.
was tricky. And it's not necessarily an age barrier now, but it's still kind of convincing people that we are a safe pair of hands to
Yeah.
deliver this project. So I guess it's been an age barrier to an extent, and the industry, rightly so, is a very experience-based industry. So
Yeah.
construction relies on people that have been doing it a
Yes.
long time, which is brilliant. So there's a challenge to overcome there, but it's now a case of no longer convincing people that we can do £100,000 project. It's convincing people we can do a £10 project,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's still a level of that convincing
Yeah.
still required.
It is always that challenging growth, isn't it? Is if small going bigger and bigger, and it can be challenging, but yeah, it's finding. I always find it's highlighting the value of being a smaller business, because with the challenges come benefits too. Smaller businesses are more flexible. Typically, I'll probably be working. You probably have more. The owner or the MD will probably have more involvement, which bigger companies doesn't happen. So there are things you can do, I guess, but still, and I guess given it is an industry that's used to long-term things, I guess it's like young things aren't as attractive. No, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that coming from a company with a pedigree that stemmed back since
Yes.
1747, it's very difficult to say we're a 5-year-old company, which to me now sounds like it's been ages,
Yes.
but to other people, it's not. It's very
No.
new.
Yeah, no, I can say when yeah, as you said, when the previous business was 1743, it does, or whatever it was, it did definitely make, yeah, it's a difference.
Yeah.
And so we looked at challenges. What do you say the biggest learnings you've had about growing a business for you specifically?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I guess from a personal point of view, as a business owner, you are quite isolated, and the buck
Yeah.
stops with you. You know, when you're employed, you can fall back on HR departments and you can fall back on safety departments. When it's your business, it's something happens or you've got an incident to deal with, it's you on the line. You've got to make that decision, and we've got a very competent team of people around me to deliver a lot of stuff, good stuff in the business. But ultimately, that buck stops with me, and I think learning that early on was quite important. But it's not easy.
No, I think it can be a very lonely place, can't it? And because if there's a challenge, you don't really want to share it with your team because you concern them. Don't want to take it home. You don't affect family life. So it does sort of stick with us. And in doing what I do, so a big part of that is being a sounding board and allowing. We coined the phrase with some of our clients, and we give them the ability to have a BMW moment, which stands for bitching, moaning, and whining. So they can come and bitch and moan and whine for a while, but it's impossible to do it for more than 7 minutes. So we give them 7 minutes. You just can't without repetition. So that's okay, and then move on. But it's interesting you said about the book stop with us, because I often say to people that the challenge of running your own business is that the buck stops with you. The great thing about that, though, is that we get to choose how it is. So we don't have to conform to anybody else's belief about how business should be run or structured, or when we work, how we work. So it's sort of like most things, I guess. They're all double-edged swords. So the challenge comes with an opportunity, good thing. And you're probably aware we're a business coaching organisation. So we major on coaching. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with are, whether that's business, sport, just life in general. Who's been the biggest influences on you?
It's probably been two people, I think. I've actually been fortunate enough to be surrounded by a lot of really good people in
Great.
my career.
Yep.
And from simple things, when I first started off, people telling me kind of, how you should behave in an office environment or in a construction site, and simple things, stuff that is not prescribed to you or taught to you in your staff handbook, but just kind of behaviors. And so I've had a lot of really good people that I've been supported by, which has been amazing. But from a business point of view, I think it's got to be the managing director I worked with at Paystone, where I worked in London, called am I allowed to name names on?
Please do, yeah.
Yeah. A really good chap called Paul Newsom. He was the MD at the time.
Yeah.
He had really high standards of what he expected from people, and just didn't tolerate any. If you didn't match that standard, you just weren't tolerated. And I know it sounds very harsh, but it instilled in me a really strong sense of moral, principle, quality, and how to deliver good leadership. And that kind of sounds a negative side of him, because he sounds maybe a bit disciplinarian, but there was a really soft side to him as well, that he'd get the best out of you, I think. He was a really good inspiration for me in setting up my business.
Brilliant.
I've got a lot of those resonating in my mind when I'm doing things with how he taught me to do stuff. And I guess secondly, probably my father-in-law. I'd never really had the confidence to kind of set my own business up, to be honest. It was never an aspiration of mine.
Yes.
I've got to confess. He always has had his own businesses since he was young.
Brilliant.
So to him, it was a natural thing.
Yeah.
And when the company I worked for before had gone into administration, I was at a bit of a loose end. I was kind of working, but didn't feel quite right for me. He took me out for a meal and said that me and your mother-in-law have been talking. We feel that you're the right person to take a business forward, and we're willing to back you to an
wonderful.
extent, and which is amazing. And it not only was the emotional support saying go for it, but also putting the money on the line, which I don't know if I had feel the same confidence doing that to my future son or daughter-in-law. But it was a real incentive and motivator, because when I first started, I was like, I can't lose, because I will then owe my in-laws a lot of money.
I like that. That's a double benefit, isn't it? Yeah, that's wonderful. And feel free to name check him if you would like to. You don't need to, but
That's Chris Bradley, and obviously his wife Debbie Bradley, my mother-in-law.
wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful.
genuinely lovely people.
Absolutely great. What great backing to have, and as you say, that gives you extra incentive. And through whether work with other people, is it? Do you find yourself using any favourite quotes or sayings that hold true for you?
Yeah, as a couple, actually, there's I work with a very vocal scaffolder from Liverpool called Barry, and it is a really lovely character, but he was very vociferous in what he was doing. And he always had a phrase that has stuck with me ever since, probably from my whole career. And it was, "You're only as good as your last base plate." And obviously, in scaffold terms, that's kind of how you base your scaffold out, and you need to maintain quality. But
Got you.
I always think it's like, for us, it's you're only as good as the last job you've done.
Yeah.
So don't get hung up on or the glory moments of a good project. You've got to focus on what you're doing now and take that forward. Um, and I always like the quote from Winston Churchill, which I don't think I get word for word correctly, but it's something like, "If you're going through hell, keep going, and don't get stuck in that moment of disaster."
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it is that simple. It's like if you find yourself going through hell, just keep going.
Yeah.
It's bang on, and it's so common sense, isn't it? But it's like, why would you want to sit here and mope around? But we are capable of hanging around in challenging places and not taking action. Wonderful. And I'm keen to know what you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far, Adam.
I think there's like a fire in my belly, which that's all I can describe it as. And at times that isn't very comfortable, if I'm honest. There's times where
Yeah.
that fire in the belly is like, I wish I could just rest and relax. But that it's kind of, I think it's always been there. And maybe if I was put on lay down on the chaise lounge and the therapist got hold of me, they'd probably say I've got some kind of disorder. But it certainly kept me going through challenging times as well as good times.
Great. Yeah, no, brilliant. And I think we all need something, don't we? And it'll be different for each of us, but what keeps us going? I often it probably at least 40% of the people I speak to, probably more than half, but talk about resilience being a big part of the success that they've had, is that ability to keep going even when we're going through hell. And I think that's a really strong and very common character with successful business people that I meet.
Sometimes you don't want to be. You kind of feel like there's moments you think, ouch, this is painful, but you're right. And at the end, it does. You get through it, and you look back and you think, I've grown through that process. But you only do that from retrospect.
Yes. Yeah. It reminds me. I'm afraid I'm a bit of a film fanatic. So there's I think there's a quote in Rocky. Don't have to be great films, but it's not it's not how hard you hit, it's how hard you can get hit, but keep moving forward.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's quite relevant for many people I meet. So, I mean, what a great history and what you've achieved so far. Looking forward now? What does the future hold for you guys? And what are some of the challenges do you think you might face, if any?
I mean, conservation work, it tends to be fairly steady. The work, you never, from my experience, it's not an industry where you're going to earn a real fortune quickly. It's a steady industry where there's fairly repeat work.
Yeah.
We grew over the past 5 years. We've grown considerably to where we are now. So there was a period of big growth to get to where we are. This allowed us to afford our own in-house safety team and marketing team and so on, which is great because all the infrastructure is now kind of there.
Great.
Which has been probably I'd say I call it the pain barrier. We've kind of gone through the pain barrier, I think,
Yep.
to get to this infrastructure point. And now we are steadying the ship. So growth curve is tapering off. Still now slow but steady growth now for the next 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
Before we can maybe reassess maybe a step change in a growth from there. So I guess the challenge now is we want to tackle slightly bigger projects. We want to convince people that we can do our own project of a good value, 5 to 10 million,
Great.
which is our aspiration now, and have one of those consistently going along for the next few years, supplemented by our what I'd call the general conservation work, so the repairs and other bits. So again, now it's that convincing people that we are safe to deliver this project for you. You know, that 5 to 10 million pound project.
Yeah, and I can see, you know, I can see that would why that could be a challenge, but I'm sure you'll overcome it and move forward with that. And I'm keen to know what you would say to anyone that was thinking of going to business right now.
Don't do it. I'm joking. No, I think it's great. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
But it's actually, there's a lot of rewards from it. I'd say I know it feels like a bit of a fraud because we've only been doing it 5 years, so me giving advice is premature. But the one thing I kind of picked up from my experience is I think it's a small wins. You know, the success is like a cumulative effect of small wins and the discipline to do the small stuff correctly.
Yeah.
And I'd say to anyone starting off, be disciplined, work hard, you know, build that momentum of the small stuff and get that right, work your way through it, and have faith that if you carry on doing that, you work hard, you stay disciplined, that it will work out for you and you will get success. There'll be challenges, there'll be lumps and bumps. You approach them with the right attitude and you'll get over them, and then you'll be stronger. I find it difficult, and I've found it difficult to kind of have the faith that things will work out, but that's something I've learned and I try and cope with. But yeah, keep doing the stuff, remain disciplined, work hard, and it will kick in.
There's I think it was Dave Brailsford and the British cycling team that had this idea of aggregation of small gains. So it was that small, you know, a small change over a lots of different areas could make a significant change when aggregated together. And I don't know if the story of the British cycling. So they introduced the gel, the antiseptic gel in like 2010 or something, because basically they knew that, you know, human contact would transfer diseases. So if we wanted to keep our cyclists as healthy as possible, so whenever and you actually see it in the cycling now, when people change things over or that somebody will do the hands, they employed a sleep coach and they carried all the bedding for each cyclist to each hotel. So you always had your own stuff, because if you slept better, you perform better. And it was all these things. Each individual one wasn't the winning, but it was all the things together. And business for me is like that. It's looking at small changes, aggregate up to big changes, and overall. So, and just think about, you know, advice to businesses. If you were to start again, is there anything significant that you'd do differently, do you think?
No, to be honest, the growth of the business, it was quicker than expected, which was a sign that we were doing good stuff early on, which is great. Yes. And we had, you know, we were lucky that we had a really good team of people available to employ straight away, which I think is a really big challenge.
Yes.
I think that was part fortune for me. That was, you know, timing and luck. If I was to start again now as a new business, I'd find that really challenging, because we, at the time, there was, you know, a big company had gone into administration. Yes. So people were at a loose end, and that would be difficult now, because I don't think that
Yeah.
happens anymore. So I think if I started again, it would probably be a bit more cautiously because of the availability of resources,
Yeah.
which I was very lucky to have.
That's interesting because it's also a great example of an opportunity that, as you said, that
Yeah,
and nobody takes pleasure from business failures, but the business had failed, but you had great people available, and there clearly was a marketplace. Any business that's been around that long, clearly there is a market that needs it. So putting those two things together at that point, absolutely wonderful. And just to give you, you said. Giving advice, only being a business owner for 5 years. Unfortunately, and this is a reason to celebrate, but unfortunately, 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. So
I'd heard that somewhere else actually. Yeah.
it's a reason I do what I do now, because it's like it's horrible. So 80% of businesses fail in the first five. Unfortunately, then of the 20% remain, 80% typically fail in the following 5 years. So
Wow.
it's getting to 80, getting to 5 years is amazing. It unfortunately still means that there's a way to go, but no, you've got a lot there. There's a lot you've got right to get to here. Please, we must
Yeah.
accept that. And
Yeah. No, thank you.
no, it's good to know, because it's I think people think you've got to be in business for 20, 30 years to be able to provide advice, and it's for me that's not true. And many businesses that have been around for a long time are just repeating. They're not actually, they're often just grow. They're just got a steady state. So the learnings aren't as valuable to growing businesses anyway. That doesn't mean it's bad to be around for 30 years, but it's most of the learning's done in the first 10, that's for sure. I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Well, and finally, Adam, I'm keen to know, what is the best advice you give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do so?
That's a good question, because I'd probably say chill out.
Brilliant.
I'd, I'd probably say, actually continue working hard, keep that fire in your belly, because it will put you in good stead. Continue embracing opportunities, but don't be fixated on an end goal. Kind of enjoy the journey.
100%. I couldn't agree more. What's the point? I see too many people there that, they put the life on hold for 10 years and hope the money turns up at the end. And it's like, well, and you put up with too much rubbish. If you're enjoying it, and the most successful organizations I find are the ones where everyone is enjoying themselves. Most people are spending most of their time doing the three things they really love and they're really good at. Therefore, everyone's happier. If they're happier, they're more effective. They're more effective, they're more profitable. So enjoy the journey is a very, very successful strategy for most businesses. Uh, Adam, it's been really fascinating, and again, congratulations on getting to this stage. And for anyone that's would be interested in learning more or contacting you or Pinnacle Conservation, what would be the best way to do that?
You can drop us a line on our website, so pinnacleconservation.co.uk, or you can reach us on Twitter, which is X now.
It is X now, isn't it? Yes, is everywhere.
Sorry, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So we're on kind of all the social media channels.
Brilliant. Well, look, Adam, it's been really has been fascinating. Thanks so much for your time. It's great to
Thanks,
swing by
Chris.
in another 12 months and catch up and see how things have gone again. And for now, thanks very much.
That'd be amazing. Thanks, Chris. Take care.
Cheers.